At the start of the drama, we see the female lead, Yuning, who comes back home from her salon. Yuning's mother-in-law is talking to Yuzi and says, in other families, the husband is busy outside with his career. But here, Yuning is always out. Yuzi is our male lead, and he says, okay, Mom, Yuning will be here soon. Just then, as Yuning closes the door, they both fall silent. Yuzi says, you're back? You said you would be back early. Yuning asks Yuzi about their daughter, Zj, and Yuzi says she is with her caretaker, Limo. After saying this, Yuning goes upstairs to her daughter. Yuning asks Zj, how was your practice today? Limo says, today, Zj practiced piano for 2 hours. Yuning says thanks to Limo, and Limo says, it's nothing, ma'am. Zj asks, Mom, where is Dad? Yuning says, Dad is making something yummy. Let's go see. And then Zj and Limo go downstairs, and Yuning comes to her room. In the room, Yuze has kept a surprise for Yuning. Yuning is happy to see it. Just then, Yuze also arrives and says, love began with a single glance, and Yuze forgets the next lines. Yuning says, every year is the same. Can't you do something new? Yuzi says, understood. My wife? Yuning says, are we not going to talk about your mom? Yuzi says, you know Mom's behavior, and in a few days, it will be fine. Today is your birthday. Don't be sad. Yuning says, thanks. Yuzi says, change your clothes quickly. Mr. Lin Yao and everyone else will be arriving soon. As Yuning is getting ready, she receives a message from an unknown number. Your husband is cheating on you. The evidence is in the inner pocket of his suit. Hearing this, Yuning quickly checks the suit and finds a bill in it, on which the product name necklace is written. Seeing all this, Yuning's attention goes to Zj's caretaker, Limo, because she was also wearing a beautiful necklace. Yuning quickly goes downstairs and sees Limo and Yuza feeding fruit to Zj together and laughing amongst themselves. Yuning gets very angry and is walking towards them when she receives another message from the unknown number that says, did you find the proof? Yuning looks at Limo and Yuze and goes back upstairs. Coming into the room, she calls the unknown number, but no one picks up the call. So Yuning sends a message, who are you? Just then, a reply comes, someone who is helping you. At that very moment, Yuzi also comes inside and asks Yuning, what are you doing? Yuning says, I am replying to a message. Yuza says, Lin Yao and Yune Wei have arrived. Yuning says, okay, I am coming downstairs. Yuze asks, are you okay? Why is your face so pale? Yuning says, maybe I am tired. Yuza says, okay, you change your clothes. I'll go. After getting ready, Yuning comes downstairs and meets Lin Yao and Yune Wei. Yuza says, why are you standing? Please sit. Saying this, Yuze goes upstairs and closes the room door. Yuning also follows him. She becomes suspicious because Limo is also inside. She hears the sounds of quiet talking from inside. She quickly opens the door and sees that Zj is also with them, and they are talking to Zj. Yuza asks, why have you come here? Yuning says, I came to see Zj. Yuzia says, okay, let's go downstairs quickly. After this, everyone comes down, celebrates the birthday, and cuts the cake. During this, Yuning's eyes remain on Limo and her necklace. At the party, Yuzi drinks a lot and passes out. Yuning takes him to the room, and her eyes fall on Yuze's mobile phone. As Yuning is about to pick up the mobile, her friend Yune Wei calls for her, so Yuning goes downstairs. After Yune Wei leaves, Yuning thinks about Limo and the necklace. She comes back to the room, picks up Yuze's mobile, and goes outside. When she opens the mobile, there is no password on it. Yuning is surprised to see this. As Yuning is looking at Yuze's mobile, Yuze comes from upstairs. Yuze says, what are you doing? Can I look for my own mobile? Yuning says, are you cheating on me? Yuze is surprised and says, what are you saying? Yuning says, if you like someone, you can tell me. You know I don't like people who lie. Yuze says, I swear I will not cheat on you. Then he says, wait for me. Then he brings something and says, and if you don't believe me, then whatever I say is useless. It's been so many years since our marriage, and you're always busy. I know I am not a capable husband, but it's okay. You are the only one in my heart. Then Yuze wishes her a happy birthday, gives her a gift, and says, I love you. Then Yuze says, aren't you going to open the gift? When Yuning opens the gift, there are earrings. When she looks at them, they match the necklace that Limo was wearing. Yuze starts to put them on her, but Yuning says, not now. I'll wear them later. Yuze says, okay, get some rest quickly. The next morning, Yuning goes to her friend Yune Wei. Seeing her worried, Yune Wei asks her the reason for her worry. Yuning tells Yune Wei about Limo and Yuze. Yune Wei says, oh my god, so what are your plans? Yuning says, I don't know. I haven't thought of anything yet. Yune Wei says, you should have her thoroughly investigated. On the other side, Limo's mother falls ill. She goes on leave for a few days. Yuning comes home and is packing when Yuzhe asks, are you going on a business tour? Yuning says, yes. Yuzhe says, take 1 or 2 extra sets of clothes. The weather will get cold in a few days. Yuning asks, where is Limo? Yuzhe says, her mom is sick. She has gone to take care of her. Then Yuning picks up her luggage, gets in the car, and leaves. Yuning is just acting all this out. She isn't going anywhere. Yuning is secretly waiting for Yuzhe in the parking area. When Yuzhe comes out, Yuning follows him. Yuzhe goes to a hotel, and Yuning follows him. This is the same hotel and room number where Yuzhe used to come with Yuning. Upon reaching outside the room, Yuning calls Yuzhe and asks, where are you and what are you doing? Yuzhe says, I was exercising. Now I'm tired and want to sleep. Saying this, he cuts the call. Yuning stands outside the room, remembering the past time she spent here with Yuzhe. Then Yuning cries a lot and goes to knock on the door. Yuzhe opens the door and is surprised to see Yuning. Yuning enters the room angrily and starts looking around. Yuzhe asks, what are you looking for? Yuning says, where is Limo? Yuzhe says, Limo, what are you talking about? Yuning says, are you playing games with me? Yuzhe says, I was getting bored, so I came here. Yuzhe says, you didn't go on your business tour. You were following me. Yuning says, you said you would never lie to me. Is there any truth in your words? Yuzhe says, you don't trust me, so you stay here. I am leaving. When you catch the mistress, let me know. Saying this, Yuzhe leaves. Yuning says, stop right there. Don't you dare leave. Yuzhe says, you don't trust me. Now you stay here. Just then, there is a knock on the door. Yuning quickly opens the door, and a hotel worker is there who says, hello, this wine and postcard delivery is at the guest's request. On that postcard, the same lines are written that Yuning had said while giving the birthday surprise, that love starts with a glance. Yuzhe takes the card from Yuning's hand and says, this is not the wine I ordered. You have delivered the wrong one. The worker says, this is correct. Yuning asks, where is the one who delivered it? The worker says, she is just downstairs. Yuning quickly goes downstairs and sees a girl who quickly gets into a car and leaves. Yuzhe comes to her and says, what are you doing? But she leaves in anger. After that, when Yuning comes home and is taking her daughter Zj with her, her mother-in-law and Yuzi try to stop her, but Zj also doesn't go with Yuning, so she leaves the house alone. Then we see Yuning sitting in her car crying a lot and thinking about Yuzhe. As Yuning is sleeping in the car, she gets a message from the unknown number. Now, isn't it enough that your husband is cheating on you? Just then, she suddenly remembers Limo. She quickly finds her address. In the next scene, we see Yuzhe talking to someone on the phone, and he says, I am glad that you left quickly yesterday, but the wine you brought almost killed me. But how did Yuning find out that I was at the hotel? On the other side, we see Yuning who goes to Limo's house, where a woman tells her she is in the hospital. So Yuning goes to the hospital. There, she sees that Limo is indeed in the hospital. Yuning asks Limo, these days, are you with your mom? They are talking to each other when a boy arrives there. Limo tells Yuning, this is my boyfriend. As Yuning is about to leave, she asks Limo about the necklace she wore on her birthday. Limo tells her, I rented that. So Yuning leaves from there. In the next scene, Yuning meets her friend Yune Wei and tells her everything. Yune Wei says to Yuning, you won't be able to find her alone. I'll introduce you to a friend who will help you find out everything. He is a cybersecurity guy. So Yuning goes to meet him and asks, are you Mr. Chen? He says, yes, I am. Chen asks Yuning to sit in his car to talk. Chen says to Yuning, I heard about your difficulties from Yune Wei. Yuning tells him everything and shows him a picture of Yuzi. Chen says to Yuning, you should behave with Yuzhe as you did before. This way, it will be easier for me to handle. When Yuning is about to get out of the car door doesn't open. So Chen leans forward and opens the door for her. Then Yuning returns home and goes to Gigi, and Yuzi is also there. Yuzi says to Yuning, where were you? I was so worried about you. Yuning says, let's go out and talk. Coming outside, Yuzi says, you doubt me. You follow me, but I didn't take it to heart. Yuning says, I realize it, and I believe you. Saying this, she comes into the room where Yuzi's mobile is lying, on which there is a message from an unknown number. Will you be at the salon tomorrow? In the meantime, Yuzhe comes into the room to get his mobile. Yuning gives him the mobile and asks, have you been going to the salon? Yuzhe says, I went once in your absence. And he says, you rest tomorrow too. I will go to the salon. In the morning, Yuzhe goes to the salon. Yuning calls Chen and tells him Yuzhe has left the house. Chen says, I am following him. After a while, Chen sends Yuning a picture in which Yuzhe is sitting with a girl who is a worker at the salon. Yuning comes to the salon in anger and slaps Yuzhe. Yuzhe says, you are crazy. The worker says, ma'am, what you are thinking is wrong. Yuzhe says to Yuning, that's enough. We were talking about business here. In the meantime, Mr. Lin Yao arrives there. Seeing Yu Ning and Yuze like this, Lin Yao says, I'll come some other day. In the next scene, we see Yu Ning and Yuzi standing in their room, fighting. Yuzi says to Yu Ning, do I have to report everything to you like before? Do you believe I am cheating on you? Yu Ning says, yes. Yuzi says, all right, show me the proof. Yu Ning says, you bought a necklace. The bill for it is in your suit pocket. Yuze says, show me. Yu Ning says, I don't have it now. Yu Ning starts to show Yuze the messages that came from the unknown number, but they are also not there. Yu Ning is shocked as to where those messages went. Yuze takes the mobile from Yu Ning's hand and says, where is the proof? You don't have any, but I do. Yuze shows Yu Ning pictures in which Yu Ning is sitting in the car with Chen, and Yuze says to Yu Ning, it is you who is cheating on me. Yu Ning says, I didn't do it. Yuze says, oh, then who is in that picture? Yu Ning says, he is Yune Wei's friend, and says, how can you think about me like that? Then Yuze leaves the room in anger. Sitting in the room, Yu Ning calls Yune Wei and says, where are you? Yune Wei says, I am out of the city. Yu Ning says to Yune Wei, can you contact Chen or give me his address? As Yu Ning is going to Chen's house, she thinks about all the past events, and her suspicion falls on Yune Wei. So Yu Ning goes to Yune Wei's house. Yune Wei is going somewhere, so Yu Ning starts to follow her. Yune Wei goes to a restaurant where Yuze is waiting for her. So Yuze is really cheating on Yu Ning. Yu Ning takes their pictures. Yuze and Yune Wei are sitting together and talking, and Yu Ning hears all their conversation. Yuze asks Yune Wei, Lin Yao didn't get suspicious, did he? Yune Wei says, no. Yuze asks, who told Yu Ning all this? Yune Wei says, I don't know. But all this was done by Yune Wei herself. She was the one who sent the messages from the unknown number. In the next scene, we see Yu Ning sitting in a garden, crying and remembering her past with Yuze, and she faints right there. When Yu Ning opens her eyes, she is in the hospital, and Limo is sitting by her side. Limo says, I came there to get something and saw you unconscious, so I brought you to the hospital. On the other side, we see that Yuze comes to drop Yune Wei home, and Yune Wei's husband, Lin Yao, sees him and asks, was that Yuze? Yune Wei says, yes, he came to talk about business. Lin Yao becomes suspicious of Yune Wei. In the next scene, we see that Lin Yao is going somewhere at night. So Yune Wei sends a message to Yuze and calls him over. Yuze comes to Yune Wei's house. They are together when there is a knock on the door. Yune Wei says, I'll see. When Yune Wei opens the door, it's Yu Ning. Yune Wei asks, Yu Ning, you, at this hour, here? Yu Ning shows her the pictures with Chen and tells her, Yuze said I cheated on him and he wants to divorce me. Yu Ning says, can you help me clear things up about Yuze? Yune Wei says, okay. So Yu Ning leaves from there. Yuze is standing hidden. In the next scene, we see Yu Ning gives Yuze divorce papers and says, look, I have divided everything equally, and Zj will stay with me. Yuze says, you can't take care of Zj. Yu Ning says, Zj has made the decision herself. Saying this, Yu Ning leaves from there. In the next scene, we see Yune Wei coming to give Chen money for doing all that with Yu Ning and tells Chen, stay away from Yu Ning. As Yune Wei is leaving, Chen says to Yune Wei, you should also stay away from Lin Yao. And when she comes outside, someone is secretly taking her picture. In the next scene, we see Yune Wei comes with Yuze to his house. No one is at home. Yuze leaves Yune Wei downstairs and goes upstairs himself. Yune Wei also follows him upstairs and goes into Yu Ning's room. Zj also comes there. Seeing Yune Wei, Zj starts to run back, but Yune Wei grabs her hand. Zj tries to free her hand, so Yune Wei lets go of her hand, and Zj falls down the stairs. At the same time, a brooch attached to Yune Wei's dress also falls down. Yuze quickly comes and picks up Zj and takes her to the hospital. Yu Ning also comes to the hospital and cries a lot seeing Zj. Yu Ning thinks that Zj cannot go down the stairs alone. Thinking this, she goes home, and there she finds Yune Wei's brooch. Yu Ning asks Yuze what happened that day. Yuze says, I told you, didn't I? Yu Ning says, you said you were home alone. Yuze says, yes. Yu Ning shows him the brooch and says, then what is this? Yuze gets worried. Yu Ning says, how long will you lie to me? And says, Zj is your daughter too. You can treat me however you want, but don't do this to Zj. And she starts crying a lot and hugs Yuze. Yuze says, it's my fault. Forgive me. I didn't take care of her. Yune Wei is watching all this secretly. After Yu Ning leaves, Yune Wei comes to Yuze and says to him, when will you divorce Yu Ning? Yuze says, as soon as Zj gets well, I will divorce her. In the next scene, we see Yune Wei comes to Chen and tells him about Zj. Chen says, sooner or later, Zj will wake up and tell everything about you. Then, what will you do? Yune Wei says, what if she never wakes up? In the next scene, we see Yune Wei comes to meet Yuze. Yuze says to Yune Wei, I need to ask you something. Yune Wei says, ask. Yuzhe says, Yuning found your brooch. Aren't you surprised? Yune Wei says, I knew, but I am not the only one who had that brooch. Yuzhe says, you are hiding something from me. Yune Wei nervously says, no, I'm not. Yuzhe says, remember you said Zj ran down by herself? Yune Wei says, yes, that's what happened. Yuzhe says, Zj is afraid of heights. She would never run down alone. Yune Wei says, what do you mean by that? You mean I pushed Zj? Yuzhe says, no, that's not what I meant. Yune Wei gets up in anger and leaves, and Lin Yao is secretly making a video of her. In the next scene, we see that Lin Yao is going somewhere, and after he leaves, Yuzhe comes to Yune Wei to say sorry. When he is on his way, Yuning sends Lin Yao pictures of Yuzhe and Yune Wei. Seeing this, Lin Yao comes back home and Yuzhe and Yune Wei get scared. Yuzhe quickly hides and Lin Yao comes into the room where only Yune Wei is. Lin Yao asks Yune Wei, what were you doing? Yune Wei says, I was cleaning, and asks, how did you come back so early? Lin Yao says, I forgot something. Saying this, he goes back. After Lin Yao leaves, Yuzhe comes out and asks Yune Wei, why did he come back? Yune Wei says, I don't know. In the next scene, we see Yuning comes to meet Lin Yao. Lin Yao asks, what have you come to talk about? Yuning says, I have come to talk about Yune Wei, and shows him the same pictures again. Lin Yao says, they are friends. Eating a meal together doesn't prove anything. Yuning says, Yuzi is preparing to divorce me, and I have found out that he has been planning something for a long time and is trying to transfer assets. Lin Yao says, your husband is cheating on you, and you should not be careless about this. Yuning says, if I get some proof, I'll do something. In the next scene, we see that Yuning transfers her company to Yuze's name. Yuze asks, are you serious? Yuning says, yes. Then we see that Yuzi and his mom are surprised at how Yuning did this. In the next scene, we see Yune Wei going to the same hospital where Zj is admitted, and Yuning sees her. Yune Wei goes to the gynecology department. When she gets checked by the doctor tells her, you are pregnant. Yuning sees her going to the gynecology department. When Yune Wei comes out, Yuning calls her and asks, are you pregnant? Yune Wei says, yes. Yuning says, I'll call Lin Yao and congratulate him. Yune Wei doesn't let her make the call and says, Lin Yao knows about this. Yuning asks, then why didn't he come with you? Yune Wei says, Lin Yao is on a business tour. Yuning asks, why didn't you tell me about this? Yune Wei says, you were busy with Zj, that's why. Then we see Yuning comes home and says to Yuze, we have to go to Yune Wei's house right now. Yuze asks, why at this time? Yuning tells Yuze, Yune Wei is pregnant and we need to congratulate her. Yuze is surprised. Next, we see Lin Yao and Yune Wei sitting together when Lin Yao gets a message from Yuning that Yune Wei is pregnant. Lin Yao looks at Yune Wei in surprise. The doorbell rings. Yune Wei opens the door and it's Yuning and Yuze. Yune Wei says, Yuning, you at this time? Lin Yao comes and takes them inside. They sit there and talk for a long time. Yuning deliberately keeps them engaged in conversation, and Yune Wei starts feeling unwell. Suddenly, Yune Wei quickly gets up and runs inside. Yuning says, I'll check on Yune Wei. Yune Wei is in the washroom. Yuning says, Yune Wei, what happened? Yune Wei says, don't worry, I'm fine. Yuning says, you look pale. Did you vomit? Yuning starts to call Lin Yao, but Yune Wei stops her and says, don't talk about my pregnancy. Just then, Lin Yao comes there and says to Yune Wei, what happened? Are you okay? Should we go to the hospital? Yune Wei says, I'm fine. Lin Yao says, your color is off. I'll get the car. Yuning says, Yune Wei has a pain in her belly. Maybe you drank a cold drink today. Yuning says this to Yune Wei, and Yune Wei says, yes, this is an old problem. I'll be fine if I rest. Yuning says to Lin Yao, do you have any medicine for belly pain at home? Lin Yao says, I'll bring it. Yune Wei says thanks, and Lin Yao leaves from there. After Lin Yao leaves, Yuning asks Yune Wei, this child is not Lin Yao's, is it? If you don't want to tell me, that's fine, but the truth cannot be hidden. Then, Yuning comes closer to Yune Wei and asks, who is its father? How do you know it's not from Yao? Yune Wei says, we can't have children. Yuning says, that's why you always say you want a child. Yune Wei says, I know this isn't right, but I will find a way. Just give me a few days. Just a few days. Then we see Yuning and Yuzi are going home. Yuning says to Lin Yao, take care of Yune Wei. Lin Yao says, okay. The next day, Yuning goes to Lin Yao's office, and whatever Yune Wei had said to Yuning last night, Yuning had recorded it, which she plays for Lin Yao. Hearing all this, Lin Yao becomes very worried and sad. Lin Yao says to Yuning, I am a businessman. You helped me. I will help you. What do you want to do? Yuning says, when someone does something wrong, the consequences are wrong. In the next scene, we see Yune Wei and Zj come to a restaurant. Zj says to Yune Wei, why didn't you say anything about such a big matter? Yune Wei says, to be honest, I wanted to tell you many times, but you were busy, and I haven't seen you for a long time. Zj asks, how many months pregnant are you? Yune Wei says, it's just been a little while, but I don't want to be the cause of your worry. Zj says, I know you have suffered during this period. Yune Wei says, no, but do you want this child? Zj says, of course. Yune Wei says, then you have to hurry in divorcing Yuning. I can't hide it from Lin Yao for much longer. Zj says, I know. I will find a suitable opportunity to tell Yuning. Yune Wei says, I love you. Zj says, I love you too. On the other side, Yuning is leaving after thanking Lin Yao when Lin Yao says to her, Yuning, delete that recording. There are some things in it that I don't want others to know. Yuning says, I understand. Just then, Lin Yao's driver, who is Chen, arrives. Lin Yao says to Chen, show Ma'am Yuning out. Yuning is surprised to see Chen and understands that Chen must have been hired by Yune Wei. Chen says, yes, okay. Please come this way, Ma'am Yuning. Coming outside, Chen says to Yuning, Ma'am Yuning, I will drop you here. Yuning says, I haven't seen you for a long time, Mr. Chen. Chen says, you are kidding. Yuning says, before this, you and Lin Yao acted very well. Chen says, Ma'am Yuning, what are you talking about? I don't understand at all. I don't know you. Yuning says, what if Lin Yao also says the same thing to you that you won't be able to understand either? Chen says, so what do you want? Yuning says, what do you think? After that, Yuning and Chen are sitting in the car. Yuning says, is that all? Chen says, I have said everything that needed to be said. Can't you guess the rest? Yuning asks, where were you on the 30th of last month? Chen says, perhaps I was on a business trip to Haicheng that day. Yuning asks, Yune Wei, where was she? Chen says, she doesn't tell me anything. Yuning asks, does she have any connection to my daughter's incident? Chen says, I don't know. Yuning say, okay, tell me everything that Yune Wei ordered you to do. Then Chen says, as far as the matter between us are concerned, don't worry. I won't tell anyone about it. Yuning says, you can go now. And besides, don't play such tricks in the future. Chen leaves, and Yuning has recorded this entire conversation. On the other side, we see Chen gives Lin Yao a resignation letter. Lin Yao asks, you have made up your mind to resign? What is the plan ahead? Chen says, I don't know. Lin Yao says, when you need money, let me know. Chen says, what you have given me is enough. Lin Yao says, you deserve it. Chen says, take care of yourself. Then we see Chen comes back to his hotel, and Yune Wei is standing there. Yune Wei asks Chen, where were you? Chen says, I have quit the job. Yune Wei asks, why? Chen says, it's nothing. I am tired right now. I want to go back to my hometown to buy a new house and live a peaceful life. Yune Wei asks, then why didn't you tell me before? Chen says, you should be looking for Zj, not me. And I didn't want to get involved in this mess from the beginning. Please don't come to me in the future, okay? Now go. So Yune Wei leaves from there. Zj calls Yune Wei and asks, where are you? Yune Wei says, I've come out. Zj says, let's meet at the usual place tonight. I have reserved a spot. Yune Wei says, tonight? Zj asks, why? Is there a problem? Yune Wei says, nothing. Let's meet tonight. In the next scene, we see Zj and Yune Wei sitting in a restaurant. Zj asks, why do you seem so quiet? Yune Wei says, I am a little tired and not feeling hungry either. Zj says, now you are not alone, so you should take care of yourself and eat as much as possible. Yune Wei asks, how did you suddenly make a plan to eat with me? Zj says, don't say that. When do I not want to see you? My heart wants you to be with me all the time. Yune Wei says, tell me the truth, what is it? Zj laughs and says, I need some money? Yune Wei asks, what happened? Zj says, it's not a big deal. A relative from my mom's side wants to borrow some money. Just 1 million. Yune Wei asks, why? Don't you have it? Zj says, all my money is in fixed deposits. I can't withdraw it for a few days and the relative is in a hurry, so… Yune Wei asks, do you think Lin Yao will give me that much money? Zj says, no. I'm just asking. If you don't have it, then forget it. I will ask Yuning again. Yune Wei says, I can lend it. Zj asks, really? Yune Wei says, but I need an IOU. Zj asks, really? Is this necessary? Yune Wei says, so that I can feel safe. After all, you are still someone else's husband. Zj says, no problem. Zj asks for this money for Yuning. In the next scene, we see Yuning thanks Zj and says, I couldn't have borrowed so much money. Zj says, it was a small thing. I asked my classmate for it. Then Zj comes close to Yuning and says, should I book a room tonight? It's been a long time since we've done that. Yuning says, sure. And Zj leaves from there. Yuning is being nice to Zj so that she can find out the truth about him, because Zj was also cheating Yuning in business. He wanted to get Yuning's entire business in his name. In the next scene, we see Yuning has come to the hospital to see Zj when Zj sends her the hotel address and room number. He calls Yuning and says, I am coming. you get ready. Yuning says, I can't come today because the person taking care of Zj is on leave today, so I have to stay at the hospital to take care of Zj. Yuza says, if you want, I can come to you and give you company. Yuning says, no, there is no need for that. You go home. Yuze says, okay. As soon as the call ends, Yuze calls Yune Wei and asks her to come to the hotel. When Yune Wei and Yuze enter the hotel room, it is decorated with flowers. Seeing it, Yune Wei asks Yuze, did you do this for me? Yuze says, yes, especially for you. There is a bouquet of flowers with a card on which it is written, this is especially for my wife. Yune Wei says, wife? Yuze says, yes, wife. You are already my wife in my heart. Yune Wei happily says, really? Yuzi says, from beginning to end, you are the only one in my heart. Hearing this, Yune Wei happily starts to hug Yuze when there is a knock on the room door. Yuze goes to open the door and sees through the peephole that it is Yuning. He says to Yune Wei, it's Yuning outside. You hide somewhere quickly. Yuzi comes and opens the door. Yuning says, why did it take you so long to open the door? Yuzi says, I fell asleep. Yuzi says, you weren't supposed to come here. Yuning says, I thought I get very little time to spend with you, so I came. And she starts searching the room here and there. Yuzi asks, how did you know I was here? She replies, I called mother-in-law to ask, so I thought if you didn't go home, you must have come to the hotel. Then Yuning goes near that bouquet and picks up the same card and says, when did you prepare this? Yuze says, I prepared it today. Did you like it? Yuning says, of course I liked it. Then Yuning says, I am very tired. Will you give me a shoulder massage? So Yuze starts massaging Yuning's shoulder and asks, is this good? Yuning says, even after so many years, your skills have not diminished at all. Yuzo says, why don't we go to the hospital to take care of Zj? Yuning says, why? I have already found someone to take care of Zj for today. Yuza says, I still think we should stay with her. Yuning stands up and says, okay, let's go to the hospital first, and says to Yuze, thanks for this surprise that you prepared for me. Yuze says, it was my duty. Let's go quickly now. Yuze quickly takes Yuning and leaves from there. After Yuning and Yuze leave, Yune Wei comes out from her hiding place. Then we see Yuning and Yuze come to the hospital to see Zj. Yuning says, you should come here and spend time with Zj. Yuze says, okay. Then Yuning says, actually, there are many things that I have also done wrong. Yuza says, it's not your fault in this. It's my fault. Yuning says, sometimes I wonder, if I were in Zj's place here and I stopped working with my hands, then maybe you wouldn't be so tired. Yuze says, no, it's not like that. I couldn't become a good husband or a good father. Yuning says, no, you did quite well. Yuze says, no, I don't deserve this. Yuning says, Zj truly loves you. Yuze says, but Yuning asks, what? Yuze says, actually that day, Yuze is about to tell Yuning the truth when the nurse comes with Zj's medicine. After the nurse leaves, Yuning asks, what were you talking about? About that day? Yuze changes the subject. Yuze says, I wish I had been more careful that day, then maybe Zj wouldn't have fallen. And Yuze says, Yuning, I promise you that I will take more care of Zj in the house now. And he says, I have to go somewhere. Yuning asks, do you really have to go? Yuze says, yes. Saying this, Yuze leaves from there. Now we see Yuze comes back to the hotel, and Yune Wei is sitting there. Yuze says fearfully, Yune Wei. Yune Wei. Yune Wei says, so this room was for Yuning. Yuze says, it's not what you are thinking. First, listen to me. Yune Wei asks, second question, are you going to divorce Yuning? Yuze says, sure. Yune Wei asks, when? Yuze says, I am waiting for Zj to get well. Yune Wei says, Yuze, I will give you two options. Either you divorce Yuning immediately, or you return my money. In exchange for my money, you will have to give an extra 10. Yuze says, 1 million? The money you have squeezed out of Yuning over so many years is more than this. This is only 1 million. Saying this, Yune Wei leaves in anger. Yuzi tries to stop her, but Yune Wei does not stop. In the next scene, we see Yuning comes home and her mother-in-law stops her and asks, Yuning, have you taken my house's certificate? Yuning says, the house certificate? No, I haven't seen it. Yuning's mother-in-law says, the certificate has always been under my bed, and if you didn't do it, then who could it be? Yuning says, mother-in-law, I am neither the owner of this property nor the co-owner, so what need do I have for it? And where else could it be? Did you ask Yuzo? The mother-in-law says, why are you saying this? Could Yuze steal things from his own house? Yuning says, that's not what I meant. You should call Yuze and ask. Yuning's mother-in-law says, I have been calling him since morning, but he has not picked up my call. Yuning says, this is strange. Yuze hasn't come to the salon for the last 2 days either. Yuning's mother-in-law is surprised and says, then where did Yuze go? Yuning says, I will try to contact Yuze. If I get any news, I will let you know. Saying this, Yuning goes inside and calls Lin Yao. Will you help me? In the next scene, we see Yuze comes to a restaurant to meet a client to sell his house. This means Yuze is also cheating his own mom. When Yuze meets the client, it is Mr. Lin Yao. Yuze is surprised to see Mr. Lin Yao, and Mr. Lin Yao asks, Yuze, are you facing some difficulty? Yuze says, no, it's not a big deal. There's some problem with my old house, so I need some money. Mr. Lin Yao asks, do you need any help? Yuze says, no, there's no need. It's just some small matters. And he says, Mr. Lin Yao, what do you think about the house? Mr. Lin Yao says, what a coincidence. I was recently thinking of buying a house in the village. Let's sign a contract. Yuze says, thank you. Then we see Mr. Lin Yao calls Yuning and tells her, Yuze is indeed selling a house, and it is urgent. Yuning asks, how is it? Mr. Lin Yao says, I have bought it. Yuning says, thanks, Mr. Lin Yao. Mr. Lin Yao asks Yuning, what is your next plan? In the next scene, Yune Wei and Yuze are both sitting in a restaurant. Yuze gives a credit card and says, this has 1.6 million, and I will try to give you the rest soon. Yune Wei says, this is over, isn't it? Yuze says, if we both continue like this, it will not be good for either of us. Yune Wei says, it's not good for you. And then Yune Wei says, do you know why I broke up with you the first time? Because you reminded me of my parents, and whenever something happened, I was the one left behind. Just like when my mom and dad got divorced, they fought for the custody of my younger brother, and nobody wanted me, just like you. Yuze says, I'm sorry, Yune Wei, but now I will find a way to tell you about that child. Yune Wei says, it doesn't matter anymore. And yes, from now on, we don't owe each other anything. Saying this, Yune Wei leaves from there and, sitting in the car, crying. She remembers the good memories with Yuze. In the next scene, when Yuze comes home, his mom is waiting for him. Yuze asks his mom, Mom, you're still awake? His mom says, tell me the truth. What have you been doing for the past few days? Yuze says, I went to handle some work. Is that wrong? Yuze's mom says, I have already called our old house. Hearing this, Yuze bows his head down. His mom says, just be honest with me. Did you take the house certificate? And she also asks, did Yuning ask you to take it? Yuze says, Yuning has nothing to do with it. I decided to sell it myself. Yuze's mom asks, why would you want to sell it alone? Yuze says, I am in trouble and I need money. I can't explain it to you right now, but I will later. Saying this, Yuze starts to leave, but his mom tells him to stop and also says, what issue forced you to steal the house certificate? And you didn't even talk to me about such a big problem. Yuze says, Mom, don't worry. We will return the money and I will buy you another house. His mom says, it's not just about the house. You also stole that book, and now you have also learned to lie to me. Yuze says, stealing? Mom, don't forget that my name is also written there, and it's true that it was originally my house. Yuze's mom says, whatever it is, how did you make this decision? Yuze says, yes, Mom. Whatever you have said is true. From childhood until now, whatever happened, was it right? But now that I am not following your path, it is wrong. Okay, I apologize. Can we move on now? I am tired now. I need some rest. Saying this, Yuze leaves. In the next scene, Yuning goes to a meeting in which Yuze is also present. Yuning asks Yuze, how are the preparations? Yuze says, don't worry. Did you bring the PPT? Yuning says, of course. Yuze thanks Yuning and leaves from there. Yuning gives a worker the PPT and says, play this. And we find out that this PPT has a video of Yune Wei and Yuze in which they are together. When that worker puts the PPT in the laptop, someone calls her, so the worker leaves from there, and someone from behind comes and changes the PPT. After this, we see that Yune Wei and Mr. Lin Yao are also in the same meeting. Just then, Yune Wei's eyes fall on Yuze, who is welcoming the guests. Lin Yao asks, Yune Wei, what happened? Yune Wei says, what is Yuze doing here? Lin Yao says, he is the one who used to collaborate with us. And then he asks Yune Wei, are you okay? Yune Wei says, it doesn't matter, and then both go forward. Yuze sees them and says, what are you doing here? Lin Yao says, if I hadn't come, who would you be collaborating with? Just then, Yuning also arrives there. Yuze asks her, what is Lin Yao doing here? Lin Yao says, it's my fault. I was the one who asked Yuning to keep it a secret. And then Lin Yao says, this company is mine too, and I thought that if we are going to collaborate, why not focus a little on our own business as well? Yuze says, oh, I see. Yune Wei makes an excuse to go to the washroom and leaves. Yuning tells Yuze, take Lin Yao inside, and herself goes after Yune Wei and asks her, how is your baby? Yune Wei says, you planned all this, didn't you? But why? Yuning says, I want to know the truth. Yune Wei asks, what is the reality? Yuning says, are you responsible for Gigi's fall? Just then, Yune Wei remembers the memory of when Gigi fell and then says, I don't know. Yuning says, don't you accept it? And yes, I have plenty of time to play now. Just then, they hear some noises, and Yune Wei runs to the meeting room. There, a video of Chen and Yune Wei is playing in which both are confessing their love to each other and also hugging. Seeing this, Lin Yao and Yu Zi are shocked, and when Yuning arrives there, she is also shocked to see this video, and a person is also secretly listening to all this. Just then, Lin Yao comes to Yune Wei and slaps her before leaving. Yune Wei, crying, starts to strangle Yuning. Seeing this, Yuza quickly pushes Yune Wei aside and leaves with Yuning. In the next scene, when Yune Wei goes home, Lin Yao is telling someone, find Chen. Yune Wei says to Lin Yao, this must have been edited by someone. Lin Yao says, it was edited. Okay, and what about this child? Was this also edited by someone? Yune Wei doesn't know what to say. Lin Yao says, how could you cheat on Yuze? Does he trust you as much as I do? Yune Wei starts crying. Lin Yao says, I will talk to my lawyer, and don't you worry, you will get nothing. In the next scene, that worker goes to Yuning and says, ma'am, someone changed that flash drive and I couldn't catch them. But I have an idea that if this person can change the flash drive without anyone knowing, maybe they were not in the meeting. Yuning says, let's check the CCTV footage. The worker says, I have already sent a person to check it. After this, Lin Yao comes to Yuning. Yuning says to Lin Yao, sorry, Mr. Lin Yao, I am investigating who changed this flash drive. Lin Yao says, it's not your fault. It doesn't matter who it is, but he has been following her for a long time. Yuning says, could it be Chen himself? Lin Yao says, I couldn't find him. Yuning says, as soon as I get any news, I will contact you. Lin Yao says, honestly, I am ashamed. She was with me for a long time, but I could never understand her. Yuning says, often it's the people closest to you who hurt you. Lin Yao says, I have told Yune Wei I'm divorcing her. What have you planned? Yuning says, the issue with Gigi is not over yet. In the next scene, when Yuning is going home, someone is following her, which makes Yuning suspicious, and she starts walking faster. But just then, Yuzi is standing there. Yuning gets scared seeing him and says, what are you doing here? Yuze says, I came to take out the trash. Yuning says, you scared me. Saying this, Yuning starts to leave and then says to Yuze, who are you waiting for? Yuze says, I am just coming after getting a parcel. So Yuning leaves. After Yuning leaves, Yuze tells someone to come out, and it's none other than Yune Wei. Yuze says to her, what is your problem? Tell me. Yune Wei says, Lin Yao wants to divorce me. And Yuze, now I only have you. Yuze says, do you still have that friend, Chen? Yune Wei says, this was all Yuning's plan, didn't you see? Yuze says, it was you who made false accusations against Yuning, and now I have realized that she is better than you. Yune Wei says, is it because of Chen? I only used him. Yuze says, well, you misunderstood. I have no interest in your business, and I have also given you your money back. Just as you said, from now on, we don't owe each other anything. And then while leaving, Yuze says, if you ever try to touch my wife again, I will not spare you. After this, we see that Yune Wei goes to Chen. Chen takes her to a room. Seeing the room, Yune Wei says, you live here? Chen says, yes, this is a very peaceful place, so I like living here. Yune Wei says, you said you wanted to go back to your native region and get a house there and find a new wife. Are you living a good life? Chen says, where can I go back to? I have been out of the orphanage for a long time, so I am used to all these things. And then Chen gives Yune Wei tea and says, all right, tell me why you are here. Yune Wei says, I didn't have any work, so I came to meet you. Chen says, is Yuzi okay? Yune Wei says, it's not Yuzi, it's you. And then Yune Wei tells the whole story and says, Yuning tried to put me in a difficult situation. Chen says, something is wrong? How could she have made the video? Yune Wei says, I don't know either. Chen asks, what did Yuzi say? Yune Wei says, he couldn't wait to get away from all this. And then Yune Wei says, now it's just us. Chen says, us? What am I? Yune Wei says, what if I say that you are the father of my child? Hearing this, Chen is shocked, and Yune Wei shows him the reports. In the next scene, Yune Wei calls Yuning to meet her at a restaurant, so Yuning goes there. Yune Wei says, would you like to drink something? Yuning says, just say what you called me for. Yune Wei places the same credit card that Yuze had given her in front of Yuning. Yuning asks, what is this? Yune Wei says, Yuze gave this to me earlier. I haven't spent a single penny, and now I want to return all this to you. Can you forgive me and my child and give us a chance to live? Yuning asks, do you think I am doing all this for money? Yune Wei asks, then what do you want? Whatever you say, whatever I can do, I am ready to do. Yuning says, I just want to know what happened that night. Yune Wei says, I don't know anything about it. Yuning says, fine, don't talk about it anymore. Saying this, Yuning leaves in anger. Yune Wei also goes after her and calls out to her, but Yuning does not stop. Just then, Yune Wei falls down the stairs. Seeing this, Yuning is shocked and takes her to the hospital. When Yune Wei opens her eyes, Lin Yao is sitting in front of her. Lin Yao says to her, I have left some money with you. When things get better, sign this. Saying this, Lin Yao starts to leave, but Yune Wei calls out from behind and says, sorry. Lin Yao says, get well soon. Saying this, Lin Yao leaves. After this, Chen comes to Yune Wei and says, I'm sorry. I wish I could do something. Yune Wei says, it's not your fault. Chen asks, what is your next plan? Yune Wei says, now I understand the meaning of your words. And then Yune Wei says, while laughing, when someone has nothing left, there is nothing to fear. Now, here we find out that Yune Wei has had a miscarriage. In the next scene, Yuze's mom is arranging files when she finds some documents. Seeing this, Yuze's mom is shocked and calls Yuze, saying, look at your wife. She has conspired against our family. Now it's good, isn't it? Your mom's final wish will now be fulfilled by your wife. Yuze says, how can this be? Just then, Yuning arrives there. Yuze's mom gives her the papers and says, tell me what this is. Yuning says, I have bought this house. Yuze says, didn't I sell this house? Then how did it get into your hands? Yuze's mom asks, what do you want to do? Yuning says, don't ask me, ask your son. He sold this house, so I bought it. Now you ask Yuze why he sold this house. And then Yuning says to Yuze, you and Yune Wei have cheated me. Hearing this, Yuze's mom says, is this the same girl with whom he had an affair? Yuning says, yes, she is the one with whom Yuze cheated on me. Yuze's mom says, how can this be? Impossible. How can our Yuze be so foolish? And then she tells Yuzi, say something, but Yuzi stands there with his head down. So his mom apologizes on Yuzi's behalf and says, he has worked hard for his family. He should fulfill his responsibilities. You are his wife. You should think about all this. And besides, you two still have Zj. Hearing this, Yuning gets angry and says, don't take Zj's name. Zj is in the hospital now. And then Yuning says to Yuzi, if you have made a mistake, you will have to pay the price for it. And yes, you two should not think that I don't know what you both are doing. I have sorted the company's accounts. Hearing this, Yuze's mom starts to feel unwell. Yuzi says to Yuning, so that means you lied to us? Yuning says, I said what I needed to say. Now we will meet in court. Saying this, Yuning leaves. In the next scene, Yune Wei is leaving a ring outside Yuze's house when Yuze arrives there. After this, Yuze and Yune Wei are sitting together. Yuze says, Yuning had planned everything from the beginning. Yune Wei says, I told you before, but you didn't believe my words. Yuze says, it feels like I didn't even know her. Yune Wei says, perhaps you don't even know yourself. Yuze says, I heard about the baby. Yune Wei says, it doesn't matter to me anymore. Yuze says, whatever I knew about Yuning, it's not over on that basis. Hearing this, Yune Wei starts laughing. Yuze asks, why are you laughing? Yune Wei says, I am laughing at both of us because, in the end, we both left them together. Yuze says, what else can we do? We are both trapped in a cage together. Yune Wei says, I have an idea. I want to make Zj disappear. Yuze says, do you know what you are saying? You're crazy. Saying this, Yuze starts to leave. Yune Wei says, don't forget the transfer of your assets, tax evasion, and these fake accounts. These are all illegal things you have done. Yuze says, are you threatening me? Yune Wei says, this is not a threat, just a reminder. Now she is the only one who will not let us live in peace, but I can make Zj and the evidence of your crime disappear together. When all this is over, this property will be yours, and I will leave from here. Saying all this, Yune Wei blackmails Yuze. In the next scene, Yuning gets a call from the hospital from Limo, because Limo is the one taking care of Zj. She says, Zj has disappeared from the hospital. Yuning quickly comes to the hospital and says, Limo, what happened? Limo says, it's my fault. I went to get water, and when I came back, Zj was not in her bed. Just then, Limo's boyfriend comes in and says, the doctor told me that Zj was taken by her father. So Yuning quickly calls Yuze and says, Yuze, what are you doing? Yuze says, what's the matter? Zj is my daughter too. I have arranged a meeting with a good doctor for Zj. I will take Zj to him, and if you trust me, you can come with me. Yuze is doing all this at Yune Wei's behest. As soon as Yuze cuts the call, Yune Wei says, I know that as soon as Yuning hears Zj's name, she panics. Yuze says, if you had a baby, you would understand. Yune Wei says, have you forgotten? I almost became a mother too. Yune Wei takes Yuze and Zj to a hotel where Chen is also present. When they enter the room, someone is secretly watching them. Yuze asks, what do we do now? Yune Wei says, now bring Yuning here and leave the rest to Chen. Zj says, I will tell her one more time. After that, the property will be mine. I can't see you people anymore. Yuning comes to meet Zj and says, where is Zj? Zj says, you always think that I would think ill of my own daughter. Yuning is standing behind Zj and then calls out to him. But just then, Chen comes from behind and knocks her unconscious. Zj keeps looking at her and leaves from there. Then we see that Zj brings Yune Wei and Zj to his house. Zj takes Zj upstairs, and there he is thinking about Zj and Yuning. After that, Zj comes downstairs, and Yune Wei is drinking. Yune Wei says to Zj, will you have a drink? And are you still mourning Yuning's death? Zj says, do you think I will be grateful to you? Yune Wei says, now the property is yours, and so is the daughter. You shouldn't hate me now. Saying this, Yune Wei is leaving when Zj says, wait, did you have any connection in Zj's case? Yune Wei says, I have told you many times, but now I will not say it. After this, when Yune Wei's eyes open, she hears the sound of music. So she comes to Zj's room and takes out a toy from her small house from which music is playing. Just then, a voice comes from behind Yune Wei. You killed my mom. Hearing this, Yune Wei gets scared and quickly throws the toy and stands up. Then, seeing Zj, she says, is that you, Zj? So she comes and sits by Zj and says, while crying, I'm sorry, but I didn't want this to happen. It's my fault. I made you like this. But I am sorry. I am sorry, Zj. Saying this, she starts crying a lot, and someone is recording all her words. When morning comes, Zj comes to Zj, but Zj is not in her place. Zj angrily asks Yune Wei, where is Zj? You were in the room with her. What did you do to Zj? You disliked her. The day she fell, you were with her. Tell me. Yune Wei says, I didn't want it to happen. I tried to catch her. I didn't want it to happen. Zj says, it really was you. I am asking for the last time, where is Zj? Yune Wei says, I really don't know where Zj is. Zj chokes Yune Wei and asks, you tell me, where is Zj? Just then, Yuning calls Zj from upstairs. Zj is shocked to see Yuning. Zj says, but you were dead. Just then, a girl comes there and says, we meet again, Yune Wei. Now here, we find out that this girl was Chen's girlfriend. But when Chen started to like Yune Wei, this girl had been following Yune Wei and also made the video of her with Chen. And this girl also changed the flash drive. Just then, Yuning also arrives there. Now we see a scene from the past when Chen hits Yuning and leaves. This girl comes and saves Yuning's life. And then that girl takes Yuning with her in the car. Yuning asks that girl, who are you? That girl says, my name is Jia. Chen was previously my ex-boyfriend, and I have been following Chen for a long time. Hearing this, Yuning says, was it you who changed the video? Jia says, yes, it was me. Yuning asks, why? Jia explains, previously Chen used to come to stay at that hotel, and he stayed there for many days. That's when I started to fall in love with him. We never even talked to each other. But then one day, when I went to give Chen a towel, Chen asked me to talk for a while. That day, we talked about everything. But then one day, when Yune Wei came in front of him, Chen fell in love with her at first sight, and Yune Wei also wanted to become his wife. And then Jia says, when I found out about you, I thought you were like Yune Wei, but you turned out to be like me. Now in the present scene, Zj asks, where is Zj? Yuning says, she is already in the hospital. Yune Wei gets angry and asks, where is Chen? Yuning says, Chen has gone where he was supposed to go. Hearing this, Yune Wei tries to attack Yuning with a knife, but Jia catches her and says, Chen is fine. He turned himself in. And then Yune Wei and Zj both kneel down and start crying. Yuning says to Zj, do you want to say something? Zj says, I'm glad that you are okay. And then Zj starts crying a lot. After this, Zj is sentenced to 6 years for attempted murder and fraud, and Yune Wei is sentenced to 6 years in prison for attempted murder, and Chen is sentenced to 4 years for the crime of murder, and Zj's mom's accountant license is revoked. In the next scene, Yuning gives her mother-in-law the certificate of her old house. Yuning's mother-in-law says to her, forgive me, this is all my fault. Yuning says, Mom, this is the last time I am calling you Mom. And yes, take care of yourself. After this, Yuning and her daughter Zj release a Kongming lantern into the air. And then Zj makes a wish. And right here, our drama has a happy ending.